So guess what article came on my little table today? Apparently a British person who pays me, one of my bosses, asked me to talk about this article. And I don't think I will talk about what he expects me to talk about, but that's the deal. All right, if you pay me, I can talk about an article you like, but my opinions are my own. So in Britain, a horrible thing has occurred. All right, this lady might have been operating a school without a license. She might have been actually teaching children without the consent and approval of the government. So I want you all to look at her face and understand the face of horror, understand the face of dread. This is the public menace, ladies and gentlemen. This is the criminal element operating in British society. This is how it looks like. I kid, obviously. She's just under accusations, and there's an investigation. There is a probe. One of those StarCraft 2 probes managed to get into her house to see if she's actually teaching children. Now, as I understand, the license isn't about the subjects that she is teaching. It's just about the fact that if you want to teach in the United Kingdom, you need a license. And I guess, you know, might be about safety regulations, like you don't want children to be studying under mold, you know, that type of things, or in a house that might break down. But here's my opinion on this, right? This is not just a British thing, it's a European Union thing. And I think it might be more of a German thing and a French thing as well. The license mania, like these people that are the wise ruler, the wise people in parliament, they want to have a license for everything. To the point where I was speaking with a Romanian a couple of days ago, and we were discussing about, you know, the European Union, and he was like, well, how would I be able to buy cheese without the European Union? Like, if I don't know that the cheese is approved, how will I eat it and not die, right? Like, what if it's infected? What if it's contaminated? And I'm like, geez, man, I genuinely don't know how your grandmother did it. I do not know how literally everyone on the face of the planet used to purchase products before the European Union and their licenses. I suppose miracle, I don't know, like they would buy milk, they would sniff it, they would taste it, they would boil it, and they would eat it. Like that's how people used to do business. But nowadays, oh, you need a license. This is why I hate licenses, all right? First of all, it's bureaucratic. And it costs a lot of time, and it costs a lot of money. Like, the people who give licenses, they don't work for free. They're not slaves, okay? It's not full socialism yet. They get paid a wage. So, when you get a license, you have to pay a tax. And the level of bureaucracy is becoming so overburdened and so insane that a lot of people are just going, fuck the system, and they're working outside the law. Right? It's illegal, the black market, and it's ever growing. You know, like a lot of people are dodging taxes and stuff like that in my country because of just how difficult it is to just pay the tax. Like, you want to pay the tax, and you have to go through so many loopholes and have an accountant that works for you. It's just like a lot of people just go, fuck it. You know, in my case, like I just have like a little business. I make videos on YouTube, and I had to hire an accountant in order to do the taxes for me because it's so complicated, right? So this is like the main issue with licenses for everything. Now, I understand like certain things need a license. Like, for example, a doctor, right? You don't want to go to a witch doctor. You don't want to go to some Chinese that does acupuncture on you, right? Like, the medical professionals do need to have some sort of vetting process. I get that. But come the fuck on, like operating a school and teaching kids, you really need a license for that? It's like, if the parent and the teacher, or, you know, the owner of the school, they have an agreement, why does the government need to intervene? This is what I don't get. Like, okay, let's assume that there is mold infestation, right? Won't the kid come to the parent and say, mommy, there's mold at school, I can't breathe properly? And the mother will go like, holy shit, you know, I'm going to pull my kid out. And then you can sue the person for operating a school with mold. Why do you need a license? So anyway, that's one of the things that I don't get. Like, why do we need a license for everything nowadays? The second thing that I don't get is the fact that there are people now that want to make schools, particularly to avoid the government schooling system. And the government schooling system here in Europe is not about teaching people how to get a job anymore. It's also about teaching people how to think. And this is very concerning. Like most parents, they send their kids to school so that they learn a trade or they learn the sufficient amount of information so that they can go to university. And nowadays it seems that you send your kid to school to also be indoctrinated and told how to think. There's a statistic saying that 75% of conservative kids are keeping it to themselves in order not to upset the teachers. There's a video from the UK coming up in Scotland with a student who got expelled because he believes that there are only two genders. Okay, this is his personal belief. This is what he believes in. And the teacher disagrees with that. And he was very livid because according to the teacher, there's a plethora of genders. And it's something so minuscule. Like, what does this have to do with math? What does this have to do with history? What does this have to do with anything? You know, like, I remember in my class, there were a couple of kids that denied evolution theory, right? They were Christian and they didn't believe in the evolution theory. But when they went to biology class, they learned the evolution theory, even though they disagreed with it. They gave the exam and they got good grades, they passed, and they still didn't believe in the evolution theory. Now, I personally, you know, think they're wrong, but who cares? You know, like that's what they believe. Why is the school's purpose now to make sure that everyone is on the correct way of thinking? And because a lot of schools are moving towards that area, you're going to see more and more parents like Charlotte Church that are trying to start their own schools because according to her, she actually says that she wants to make the best choices for her children. She wants to choose a school for them where they will be lost among the crowd or forcibly molded into a shape I don't recognize. You know, you look at some of the kids that go to certain left-leaning universities and then they go into a protest encouraged by usually a white man, that's their teacher, and they get arrested at the protest. You know, imagine being in that position. Imagine being a parent. You pay your kid university, you invest a lot of money into them so they can have a future, and then you find out that they went and got arrested because their university professors encouraged them to do so. You know, like, that's not cool. Maybe for some people it is cool. For me, you know, I don't think it's really cool if it happened to my kid. Look at the Kavanaugh, for example. That happened in the United States. But look at the Kavanaugh hearing, right? You had a lot of students that were pushed by their university professors to go there and protest, and then they got arrested. It wasn't the university professors that got arrested. It wasn't the children of the university professors that got arrested. No, it was the useful idiots that went there and banged at those doors like zombies and, you know, had the sergeant at arms to kick them out that got to the paddy wagon. And secondly, another big minus to the schooling system, at least in my generation, there were 35 kids in a classroom. There is no possible way that the teacher can dedicate an equal amount of time to all the 35 kids. You know, and not to mention, like, some kids might be really good at math, some kids might be really good at art. You can't really focus on each kid's individual need when you study with such a huge group. And this is a big minus that's never been addressed. Not to mention that I remember how bad high school was for me, at least. Like, no adult would ever consent to work in the conditions that I studied at my high school. There were cameras on every hallway. There were bodyguards at the door that wouldn't let you leave unless you had a reason to. You had to ask permission to go to the bathroom. There were bars at the window. Like, it was almost like a prison. I felt like in a prison. Not to mention that the teacher thought that they are the best thing that happens is the second coming of Jesus. Why would parents want their kids to be in that position? Like, I understand that homeschooling is a thing, and initially I was laughing at it, and I understand only religious people would homeschool their kids, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. You know, like, the government should just have an exam, you know, for kids, and everyone needs to pass that exam in order to get, like, their license or whatever. And their license being the diploma. And it doesn't matter if the kid studies at home or studies at school. As long as he passes the exam, the government shouldn't give a fuck. That's the normal way, you know? But unfortunately, we have a person named Hitler that in history came up with the idea that, no. School is also to teach people how to think. And the communists kind of liked that idea and copied it. But let's not talk about it. No, it was actually a thing. Like, the parents would spend 9 hours, 10 hours a day in the factory. And during that time, the kids would be at, summer camp or, the actual schools. And they were being taught that, they need to be free. And by freedom, it means, even freedom from their parents. Very, very important concept to have a lot of kids and stuff. Anyway, my point here is that I do think that homeschooling isn't really something to laugh at anymore. Like, especially if you can afford to just hire a teacher, like this can actually create a business where, let's say you're a math teacher and, from 8 a.m. you go to Jimmy's house and you stay there for 2 hours to teach him how to do math. And then you go to Bill's house and you stay there 2 hours to teach him. You'll make a lot of money. It would actually create a lot of money, and the parent would just, teach the kid what he knows, and what he doesn't know, he would hire one of these teachers. Maybe they could have like 2 or 4 kids at once, and the teacher teaches all of them. Why not? Why not? In my country, they used to have this tutoring. But it was mostly because teachers were heavily underpaid and they wanted to get a little buck. So if you want like extra tutoring for math or whatever, you'd have a teacher that would come to your house. Usually, being Eastern Europe and being high with corruption, you would go to class to, study Latin. And then the Latin teacher would call your mom at school and they will say, well, little V is kind of dumb. I know he gets good grades in everything else, but at Latin, he's kind of a moron. Now, if I were to tutor him, if you were to pay me $100 or something, I would come to your home to tutor him, I'm sure little V is going to be a Latin expert. He can get the DeLorean and go back to the Roman Empire and he can have a conversation with Julius Caesar. That's how good he's going to be. And all of a sudden, you pay the money and the teacher comes to your house and gives you the tutoring and the grades magically improve. That's how a lot of things worked in Eastern Europe. This idea of the teacher coming to someone's house and teaching them is really great. Not to mention, like, the whole shtick with kids having to go to school to learn their LGBTs is starting to get a little bit annoying to the Islamic population. In my country is that kids need to go to school to learn religion. A lot of atheists don't like, why should the kid go to school to learn religion? Why that? Like, the church is at home. They can go to church during Sunday. Why does the state need to teach the kid religion? Same question in England. Why does the state need to teach the kid the LGBTs? He can learn that at home. Or watching YouTube. Queer Kid Stuff. Very good channel. You should check it out. Let me know what you think. Looking forward for the comments in the comment section.